Hello out there. Hi. Sorry, I'm a little late, but I guess that's my nature. Sometimes I'm on time and sometimes I'm late. I'm a little, you know what I did? I did eat dinner. So what I did was I was going to make myself some oatmeal. And I said, don't bother heating the oatmeal. Just put some milk in it and eat it cold. And they think the milk is, causing congestion with my asthma. So hopefully that'll go away soon. I've got some wonderful tea. I've got rose iced tea. And it's easy to make. Just get some rose. Hello there, Spirit Sama. It's so glad to see you. Hope you're doing well. Rose iced tea is really good to make, and it's also very calming. You know what? I love these. Oh, I hate glasses because I drop them. They get cold on the outside. They're slippery, but these have a lip that I can hold them. So I just reuse jars, or sometimes you'll see me use mason jars. I know I should take off the label, but I do too much. And I worked pretty hard outside today, cleaning the patio, lots of cobwebs, lots of dirt. So as an asthmatic, it's probably not the smart thing to do. So this one is a rosebud iced tea. And you could buy rosebud tea. It's just rosebuds. Buy rosebuds. And what you can do is you can heat them up to steep them if you want them warm. Or you can just put them in cold water or just water and then just put a cover on it and just let them sit. And they naturally steep. And they're really wonderful. And so you can make iced tea out of that. You can add lemon to it. Lemon rose iced tea. And rose has a calming effect. It's like lavender or chamomile. Very good. And it really tastes delicious. And this is raspberry lemon iced tea, except there's no ice in it because it's been sitting here for so long. It got warm. Hello there, Raven Poe. I'm sorry. I'm working on a Chromebook, and it's those old Chromebooks that are this big. So sometimes I misspell things, and sometimes I don't see things because the writing is really low. And I've been putting coconut oil on my face. And so the coconut oil goes into my eyes, and sometimes I'm just totally blind. I'm working blind. It's terrible. So Raven Poe, jasmine green tea. Oh, that sounds delicious. In fact, I had some jasmine tea. It's got the sticks in it. And I should mix that because it's loose. It comes directly from China. And Chinese restaurant gave it to me because I was such a good customer, but they're out of business now. And that mixed with green tea, I haven't made green. I've got green tea, and I haven't mixed any this year, but I love iced teas. Iced tea and lemon, that's my favorite. So, Felina, do you have an actual desk in front of you? No. What you're looking at here is I tell you that I work on, that everything I do is very, very inexpensive because I really can't afford it. This is a stool that was bought by my mother from a tag sale, one of those step stools. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books stacked up. And I have my Chromebook, which is the old model, and it's small. And I have the light beside me. When I worked for attorneys many years ago, one of the attorneys, the wife said, all right, you've had enough. You've got to redo this office. And he used to smoke cigars all the time. So it's like when you looked into the room, there used to be all this fog. And you could... and so everything was stained with that. And so he said, well, do you want this lamp? And it was this old lamp. It's all right, I'll take that lamp. And then the hurricane lamp broke that my mother had, which is ages old. And so I have I put the top to that on because it lets a little more light through. It's got daisies on it. I think my aunt June painted it. And she was an artist. She was very good. But she would be 100 years old if she was alive now. But I was scared of her because she was a disciplinarian, real disciplinarian. And anyway, so everything is very, as cheap and as cheap as you can possibly get. As you know, the creativity is just is behind me. All the colors are basically pieces of fabric that I've put up. And these, thanks to China, you can get some cheap lights, and just chiffons and different kind of satins mixed together. And so you can do a lot of things that make it look really nice, and you'd have to spend a lot of money. But I've been doing that my whole life. I've always good at decorating things and making things beautiful out of what people would call trash. And today you might call me trash, but today we are honoring. We're gonna start the show honoring Antonio Benedetto, who died today at the age of 96. He got Alzheimer's a couple years ago, and he died. And it was funny because last night I was texting a friend of mine. Last night I wasn't texting the friend. The people next door. As I was cleaning, I could hear the kids running up and down the driveway. And somebody came in playing this loud music. At first, I thought it was Jimi Hendrix, And I'm going, oh, those hippies! They're going to destroy these little Italian children that live next door. They should be listening to Tony Bennett. They should be listening to Once Upon a Time. That'll set them straight. I think, as it turned out, it was actually Red Hot Chili Peppers, but it sounds kind of like Jimi Hendrix. So they must have gotten their inspiration from Jimi Hendrix. The Red Hot Chili Peppers is, I guess at this point, is an old band too. But I was going to go out and say, you're going to screw up your kids. You should listen to Glenn Miller and Moonlit Serenade and then tell them how he went to World War II and died. He was a conductor of an orchestra, and he wrote the song Moonlit Serenade. Most people know it, they just don't know the name of it. And Tony Bennett, Once Upon a Time. Most people know Tony Bennett from I Left My Heart in San Francisco, which was one of my favorite songs until I heard Once Upon a Time. Ooh, one of the most beautiful songs. It really is. It's one of those songs that makes you cry. And I was thinking last night, I'm going, geez, had Alzheimer's for a while. He's not dead yet. Is he dead? Because I haven't heard that he died. And a few hours later, it was announced that he died. So it's like from last night to this morning, they announced that he died. Last night that happened, I was talking about Alan Arkin and the in-laws with a friend that I used to go to school with over a text message. And I said, gee, I haven't heard. Is Alan Arkin dead? It's like, it's about to say he should be very old now. I know Peter Falk is dead. Is he dead? The next day he died. Every time, for some reason, I think of something, it must be that it just pops into my head. The next day they die. I don't think I'm making them die. I think it's just, I don't think that. I think sometimes it's in the air, in intuition. There's somehow you're kind of connected with, because I'm so connected with the heavenly things, that they kind of give me, a message. Hey, such and such is going to be up there. But so this is basically like an Italian peasant outfit. It's a really pretty skirt too. If you see the skirt is just beautiful. So I'm dressed in honor of Antonio Benedetto, and my uncle Jimmy, his name was Vincenzo. They called him Jim, and he was Democrat of the Year. They didn't give that to him till he was very old, and he did a lot of work for the Democrat Party, by the way. And my uncle Jimmy used to call Tony Bennett the whore master because he divorced his wife, his wife, good Italian girl, and who had all his kids. And then when he's older, he divorces her. And so my Uncle Jimmy, see, all my uncles, except for my Uncle Vic, who was actually born with the name Vito, but he was as handsome as all hell, curly black hair, dark skin, green eyes. I mean, not like those light green eyes that you see in like the British Isles. It's a vivid green that you see around the Mediterranean. You'll find them around the Mediterranean to the Middle East. It's a very rare color eye. In fact, I have never seen anybody except for our family members that have it. But as far as I know, there must be other people across the country that have it, because he had a lot of, for his day, you know, my mother said that you have a lot of cousins you don't know about, because he was so handsome. And when he danced with you felt like you were dancing on a cloud. And he would wear light suits against his dark skin. He was just gorgeous. But anyway, all my uncles, they would never, ever divorce their wives. That was just wrong. So he used to call Uncle Jimmy. Would go on and on about he was the whore master because he got divorced. Plus, he was angry at him because they invited him to they had an Italian club. He was supposed to sing at it, but he couldn't make it. So my Uncle Jimmy just went off on him. He would say, "You GDSHTALE, UG 4 CRISSAKES sakes." He would never say the word FUCK, but he knew how to put every single swear there was together. He rarely called anybody a bastard, though, or a bitch. No, he didn't do that. But he used to swear all the time. Oh, it was really funny having Italian. And Michelangelo never swore. My Uncle Joe never swore either. Giuseppe, he never swore either. Neither did my Aunt Anne. My mother would swear once in a while. Once I caught her saying FUCK and she denied it. No, I never said that. I never say that. So I found on a guy who's actually really good that sings Once Upon a Time. It's a cover. So hopefully YouTube will let me play it. So I'm going to mute my mic, and we're going to start. I muted my mic and I keep talking. Oh my good Lord. Well, anyway, we're gonna segue into a little bit about Tony Bennett, and then about the immigrants, and then Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Reddit outcry against her because she said something she called FDR was a socialist. And then we'll talk about FDR. So we'll get into the ills of America from Tony Bennett, but we should remember, of course, how they treated the Italians, who was merciless. Because people don't remember that these other groups that came to this country were also treated very badly, you know, and people just say Europe, you know, it's like it's just a mix of whites. And when they came to this country, the KKK didn't treat them very well. So they suffered too. And some of them are still poor. Some have gone on to college and have got these great jobs. But there are some that are very poor too. Though even though I've got all the lights and all the fabric up there, I'm very poor, very, very poor myself, and I don't know how I'm gonna get by. Look at Spirit Sama. Mic muted. Thank you, Spirit Sama. We can hear you. Sounds pretty good. Yes. Okay. Let's listen a second to actually I hear the song and it just melts inside. It's so romantic. It's so beautiful. And when I first heard it, I go, oh my God, I can't help but cry. And obviously this is not Tony Bennett, but it is an Italian singing it. I know YouTube will just take it down. If you can tell me how, some people do play music or like the entire song and it's got copyrights, and for some reason they don't let me do it. They got something against me. Anyway, I'm going to mute my mic and let's listen to.
Once upon a time, a girl with moonlight in her eyes put her hand in mine and said she loved me so. But that was once upon a time, very long ago. Once upon a hill, we sat beneath a willow tree. Counting all the stars and waiting for the dawn. But that was once upon a time. Now the tree's gone. How the breeze ruffled through your hair. How we always laughed as though tomorrow wasn't there. We were young and didn't have a care. Where did it go? Once upon a time, the world was sweeter than we knew. Everything was ours. How happy we were then. But somehow, once upon a time, never comes again. How the breeze ruffled through your hair. How we always laughed as though tomorrow wasn't there. We were young and didn't have a care. Where did it go? Once upon a time, the world was sweeter than we knew. Everything was ours. How happy we were then. But somehow, once upon a time, never comes again.
Oh, that was beautiful. I would suggest you hearing Tony Bennett's version. It is just, this guy is really good, but Cinelli, C, when you have a consonant and then a vowel after the consonant, the C is pronounced like che. So it's not S sound or a cos sound, it's a che sound. So Cinelli. So he is an Italian, but Tony Bennett is just, he's got a voice that sounds like maybe he's been smoking his whole life a little bit better, a little better than that. And there's something almost rough about him, but he's a handsome guy. And he had perfected singing as an art. Kind of like Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra, my mother said, you can hear every word that he said. There's no, like sometimes when people sing, it's hard. Some words you don't make out as clear, but Frank Sinatra was very, very clear the way he sang. And you notice that the time that Sinatra's further back, Tony Bennett, I think, was the 50s. Sinatra started in the 40s. And there was an art to singing. And unlike today, when people can get up to a mic, I guess starting in the 60s, because people are on drugs. I'm not sure if they realize it. But we've come to accept people who actually don't have good voices, strong voices, or voices that can sing. The song is like a piece of art. There's a certain art that not everyone in singing that people have perfected. And it's also performing the way you could see the way they move and their expressions. This guy was good, but like I said, when you see Tony Bennett or listen, just listen to him, you can, it's like you can visualize the whole thing, even though you're just hearing it. And we don't have that today. Atheism, deflating atheism, said that he may come on and he may be our to be announced guest. So if you'd like to come on, I sent you the link through your email. So go on and come on in, and we can begin the show by talking about an Italian, which is also the most important thing we can talk about in this world. Well, this is a very good Italian. This is an Italian that had didn't go to school to learn his art, how to sing or vocalize, and just perfected it in a way nobody else has. I like his version better than Frank Sinatra's, better than Bobby Darin, who is also Italian. It's like Italians flock to this song. Bob Dylan tried to sing it. He did an honor. He honored him about a year ago after Tony Bennett's Alzheimer's diagnosis. And of course, Bob Dylan, you know what I mean? It is like when I say that in the 60s, all of a sudden, people, they were singing songs, but it was no longer an art. It was no longer a good voice. You see, in Latin countries, any from South America to, any of the Italy, Latin countries, and even any African country, and the African Americans in this country or the Caribbean, it's like you're not allowed on stage if you don't have a good voice. That's it. You're off. It seems like let's see, an ill or of the Western countries is that we've allowed people who maybe should write the music but aren't as great at singing it. But sometimes some people with not a great voice can pull it off really well. I sent you that's right. Oh yeah, I'll send you the link. Okay. Look at how he's yelling at me. He's yelling at me in the chat. All right, I'll send it to you again, Lord. Lord? Oh boy. There we go. History. I'll send it to you again, my Lord. All right, it's coming up right now. Wait for it. B-A-G. There you go. It's not coming up here. No, it's not finding you. Okay. Come on. Sorry, dear. My liege. There it goes. Wait. This thing is giving me trouble. Okay. Now, will it let me send? Okay. Okay. So, hopefully you'll be coming in soon. All right. Of course, Black Samurai, Spirit Sama, anybody else? This guy might not make the stage, but you are always welcome if you want to come on. So anyway, alrighty, let us. I'm gonna bring up a little something about Tony Bennett. Also, my light here, I've got the lamp and I've got a small ring light, a teeny tiny, very cheap ring light that I have used since I started this channel. So I have to move that around. So if I can get better equipment would be great. Let's see if, yes, he's here. Okay.
Hey.
You're not going to show your face. What about your eyelids?
Oh, yeah, they're healing. They're healing.
All right, they're not completely healed because the next time you come on, I'm not going to let you come on unless you show your face. Okay? This is it. This is the last thing here, and so we're going to share the screen, and we're going to.
No one before ever in my life has ever wanted to see my face, so this is a first.
I'm sure everybody who watches your channel wants to see your face. Let's see, where is it? Um, oh, I think it's Friday. Oh, why this is not.
Yeah, long ago, when me and Felina were making plans for our child, we were gonna have all sorts of fun videos, like going through our record collections and showing, the oddities we had.
I know, but trying to get you to do comedy, but you I keep saying, hey, we'll do this and do that, and this would be funny, but what is this here? Okay. All right. There he is. Okay. There's Tony Benedetto. And it's as if, I don't know, because everything is so small on this screen. It's very blinding. Okay. Let's put that up there. See if this will move. Okay. Master pop vocalist who had a professional career spanning 8 decades with the #1 album at age 85. Died on Friday morning in New York City. He was 96. Bennett was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in 2016. So it did take him a long time to go down. But he had continued to perform and record through 2021. That's amazing.
Yeah.
With Alzheimer's, that's amazing. That's well, you know what? That's an Italian. You can't expect anything less. You know what I mean? His peer, Frank Sinatra, called him the greatest popular singer in the world. His recordings, most of them made for Columbia Records, which signed him in 1950, were characterized by ebullience, immense warmth, vocal clarity, and emotional openness. A gifted and technically accomplished interpreter of the Great American Songbook, which people don't know anymore, the Great American Songbook, which is these classic songs of American history when people could actually sing songs and perform them as an art. And he may be best known for I Left My Heart in San Francisco in 1962.
Nowadays, it's because you literally left your heart because it was ripped out of your chest in San Francisco.
Yeah, literally. Well,
Right.
now, that's now. Then you may have fallen in love with someone. Now they actually rip out your heart. He was equally at home in front of intimate combos, which often featured his pianist and longtime musical director Ralph Sharon, and lushly arranged orchestras. Though never strictly a jazz singer, he flourished in jazz settings and cut memorable sessions with Count Basie, big band, and the lyrical pianist Bill Evans. Active as recording artist from 1949 and one of the top pop performers in the 50s and early 60s, Bennett saw his career surge anew in the 90s and again in the new millennium under the management of his son, Danny. So he had his son manage him, and so did Tom Jones had his son manage him. In later years, he memorably duetted with the standard Body and Soul with Amy Winehouse. That must be amazing to hear. Poor soul. Sometimes you saw Amy on stage and she was just so on drugs, let's say. She was so affected by the drugs. I say, I'm going to turn a light off. I got a light out in the hallway. And I need to keep the lights low because of the cost of electricity. So excuse me, but you can regale them with your humor.
Should I go blue? Should I go blue with my jokes? What's purple and goes slam, slam, slam? A 3-door grape. Ba-da-ba. Where's Nemo? We need doggies. Hey, Spirit Sama. Good to see you. Oh, we do want to do a live stream with you whenever we can make that happen. The beautiful dulcet tones. Whoop, 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 whoop. Well, I cannot carry a. Do I need any equipment? What do you mean? I don't know. I used to. Well, I still have a actually quite pricey MOTU audio interface, and it now it's a paperweight because it's malfunctioning. But I had a whole microphone set up, but it was a little unwieldy for live streams. Do we need upgrades to a PC or a desk? Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a new computer. But I don't know. I should be doing a little better financially in the weeks and months ahead. I've really been sort of hobbled the past year or so. Yeah, I always work with a desktop. I never found my zen with laptops or tablets for that matter. Wow, I cannot carry a show by myself. I want to do the salty cracker thing and just go from the top of the dome, but I do not have that skill. Okay. What should I talk about, Felina?
Oh, well, I'm coming back in, otherwise I wouldn't have heard you because I had to let the dog in. He was sitting out there in the dark and I had to feed him. He needs something to eat. So that's okay. You're free now. His last public appearance came with Gaga. I guess that's Lady Gaga at Radio City Music Hall in August 2021, 2 months before his last release, the Bennett Gaga set, Love for Sale, the sequel to their chart-topping 2014 collaboration, Cheek to Cheek.
Well, he had Alzheimer's. That is remarkable.
Yeah. After getting a young new audience with smartly booked TV appearances, his MTV Unplugged album of 1994, released when Bennett was 67, won a Grammy as Album of the Year. A pair of duets albums in 2006 and 2011 enlisted new fans. The later release reached the apex of the U.S. chart. Pondering Bennett's unprecedented artistic longevity and enduring popularity in a biographical guide to the great jazz and pop singers, critic Will Freewald wrote, "The idea that someone who sang a great sang the great show tunes of the Eisenhower era and early or could compete with heavy metal and rap would have previously seemed fodder for one of those rapidly aging comics who opened for Sinatra. Winner of 18 Grammy Awards with 36 total nominations and recording Academy Lifetime Achievement Award recipient in 2001. Bennett also garnered 2 Emmy Awards. He was a Kennedy Center honoree in 2005 and a National Endowment for the Arts Jazz Master in 2006. The source of Bennett's generation hopping appeal may be best summed up in an observation about his singing by composer and critic Alec Wilder. There is a quality about it that lets you in. And I have to agree with that, because the song that I played Once Upon a Time, when you hear him sing it, all of a sudden you enter into the song. You enter into his voice, into his feelings. He doesn't cry in it. Sometimes you can hear that the singer is crying. You get let in, but then again, I think rather he comes into you and you can feel him singing in your soul. And that's what makes you cry. Mm. It's, I say, if you've never heard him sing, or if you've never heard him sing Once Upon a Time, I will put the link in the description. But there are many versions of him doing it on YouTube. There's one I like the most. And in fact, he's not, I should find with him actually singing it, in person. It's, I think it's called The Essential Tony Bennett. And it's just a picture of him. And the difference between radio before video killed the radio star, the experience was much better if the vocalist just sang the song. And they had a very good voice. And they were able to, if you were on the radio, A, you had to have a fantastic voice. B, your accompaniment had to be fantastic. And C, you had to express the feeling in a way that made it real for the people listening. It's as if they could see it, except the difference of today is everything is superficial. It's on the outside. When you listen to the radio, you closed your eyes. Like when you listen to radio, you used to have like shows called The Shadow. Only the Shadow Knows. And they used to have to do some sounds in the background, but you didn't see anything. So what you would do is you would shut the lights out, and there'd be one light shining on your radio on the dial. And then you close your eye and you'd listen, or you'd watch the dial. And it became real. You heard the sound effects. It sounded scary sometimes if it was a scary show, like Orson Welles' War of the World. People turned on their radio and they actually thought it was an emergency broadcast about aliens coming to Earth and basically destroying civilization. And people heard it and committed suicide because they thought it was actually real. Because of the sound effects. He did it the way Orson Welles did it. He did it in a way that was more than just sound effects. Somebody knocking on the door, and they'd use all these things to get the sound effect that they wanted neigh like a horse.
Yeah.
And the clomping of the horse. And what do? You take 2 cans or something, and you
all the Foley effects. Yeah.
But War of the Worlds sounded real. Orson Welles, he put out sound effects that made people think this was a real broadcast. So in singing a song, when a man really can sing a song, remember Jerry Seinfeld said about Mel Torme, and Kramer was going to see Mel Torme.
The whole world smiles with you.
What'd you call? Oh, Elaine wanted to go see Mel Torme, and she wanted to get tickets for both of them. And Jerry Seinfeld goes, "I don't want to watch a man sing a song." I don't know why that sounded so funny, because when you listen to these singers, they could sing really well. That really made you close your eyes and you felt it. It entered you. You could really feel the emotion. That's why music became so important. Because it was on radio and it was performed so well. It wasn't superficial. It wasn't half our attention is watching the person watching the different scenes and the garbage that they made you watch. If the music isn't good enough to just listen to it, like orchestra, when you heard classical music, and people get lost in how good classical music is because you listen to it. It came off the radio, or you were in the audience, and you were watching them playing it, and it was so good, and it was so complicated because you had all these different sections and all these different types of instruments. The complexity of what goes into that. So when singers like Tony Bennett of that era had to be really, really good, had to make it come to life. It had to be the quality of a classical piece, an orchestra. And that's what people were used to. And there was that high demand of what music had to be. Now it's the costumes that they wear, how they dance. They're all gyrating on stage. And this man just stood at a microphone. It wasn't even a stupid musical. Everybody's had costumes and dancing around. He just stood like Frank Sinatra, stood at a micro. Dean Martin stood at a micro, or Nat King Cole. I mean, we could go on and on of these great, Lena Horne. They just stood at a microphone and they sang, and you felt it. Or the greatest one of all, Mahalia Jackson, great gospel singer, nobody knows today. Man, she just stood there, and her feeling was inside of her. It just came out. Like it was bubbling out from inside of her over the surface. She was amazing. And who knows that anymore? They don't. So he was born, it actually was Antonio Dominic Benedetto, in Astoria, Queens, New York, on August 3rd, 1926. A lot of Italians had to Americanize their names. Like my uncle Vincenzo had to be known as Jim. They had to, and then my Uncle Angelo, when he performed on stage, performed as Jack Basil and the Tumbling Tumbleweeds. He had to lower the Italian sounding name to gain an audience, So to Italian immigrant parents, his father was a grocer, his mother a seamstress, Raised in poverty, he began singing as a child and studied music, and his other lifelong love, painting. That's right, he was a great painter. He was a really good painter. So you see how much came out of this man's soul. A New York high school student of industrial art, his vocal influences included Al Jolson, Bing Crosby, and later Frank Sinatra, as well as such female singers as Billie Holiday and Judy Garland, who was born Frances Gum, by the way, and her mother, Judy Garland started with the Gum sisters, her sisters. She performed with her sisters in vaudeville.
Judy Garland, I imagine, would have been a little younger than him, wouldn't she have been?
1939. She starred in The Wizard of Oz in 1939, same year as Gone with the Wind. Of course, Gone with the Wind won. He started singing in 1949, so 10 years later.
Yeah, well, if she was like 15 in 1939.
But she started her career. So
yeah.
Tony Bennett listened to her perform for 10 years before he started his career. So he had that's it. Okay. So the reason why Judy Garland went downhill is because her mother used to give her and her sisters drugs. And she was very young. She was just a child when she started performing, before she even got to The Wizard of Oz. And they had to tape her breasts down because she wasn't a little girl anymore, actually. But she got hooked on drugs, sleeping pills, uppers, downers. Yeah. And when you start that young, she died at, was it early 40s or something?
Yeah.
I think she was very, very young when she died. So you can't, when you look at her and you say, oh, it's another star and it's because of stardom you did it. Well, yes and no. Yes, it was the stardom that her mother wanted. And her mother could have not given her daughters drugs also. And she may have been perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he was drafted in 44 at 18 years old and served in World War II, European theater, doing combat infantry. It's another thing about Europe. All those bad white Europeans, they fought the Germans who wanted to take over the world. This is all a part of the show, the good and the bad of America. How bad is America really? We fought against a country named Germany who aligned with Japan, and Hitler considered the Japanese Aryans. He did not consider them people of color like he would an African person from Africa. He considered the Japanese Aryans, and together they were taking over the world. They wanted to create a world empire, these two countries. So they were essentially globalists who wanted to run the world the way they wanted to run the world. And it was going to be an imperial empire as far as Japan was concerned. And it was going to be a socialistic, because fascism is fascism is socialism. It's a cousin to it. It's when the government controls absolutely everything. They control. They have so many regulations that they regulate everyone to death, the people and your entire way of life, and and all the companies. So even if you own the company, you can be put out of business, or everything can be taken away from you, including all your money. They would take all your money out of the bank, and they would run it, because it was very hard to comply with all the regulations that the government put down. So that's what they were doing. It wasn't nationalistic in a sense that they wanted their country and it was all about them. They were they broke out of their borders. They were marching over the whole world to take over the whole world. And the whole world was going to be called the Third REICH. Is that right?
He already dropped all those bombs. He already dropped the H bomb.
Well, that's the word. Well, you see, that's the thing. The whole world was going to be run by a group of men that were very, very wealthy and very powerful, and were going to decide who lived, who died, who was sterilized, who was the eugenics, the extremely controlling birth rates, who was able to, because they just sterilized you.
And a lot of those ideas came from America.
And if you were disabled in any way, you were killed. You were killed because you were a useless eater. And food production is. We have a czar recently that had an interesting comment about it's the human demand for food is what's causing all this agriculture that they have to shut down, because it's creating things that used to be actually good but now are deemed bad by somebody. But anyway, so the Europeans, you see, you've got a country that learned from the Jim Crow South, the KKK, learned from the eugenics that was created started in, the idea came from New Hampshire, one of those colleges. That's where they got their, they learned how to control different parts of the community, and certain parts of the community were essentially they were akin to vermin. You call them a name like some kind of insect, and you lower them from human status to something that's spreading germs, something that's spreading viruses, something that is eating the food supply meant for the people who were above. So you see how history kind of repeats itself in a way. Mm-hmm. But you've got all these European countries, and the first 2 years, China helped the first 2 years, and then they stopped, fighting against Japan and Germany. And of course, Mussolini was a fascist, but he was a Northern Italian, and there is a divide there. Southern Italians are related to Southeastern Mediterraneans, by the way. That's what the genes go. Their ancestors are Southeastern Mediterranean. Northern Italy, part of it was Austria, then it was Northern Italy, then it was Austria again. So you've got that German, who was born, the guy with the H, was born in Austria. So that's the reason why there's a connection. And of course, the Northern Italians say anything south of Rome is Africa. So we have two different countries, and one totally oppressed the other and impoverished the other. So you've got these countries, but all Italians were demonized anyway. And in America, they were also put in internment camps. Nancy Pelosi will say something like, actually, I should read this, but I shall stop sharing the screen. Where are we here? Okay. Nancy Pelosi will say something like, she will mention that America put Japanese in internment camps. What she will not say is, as like the people on Reddit who are saying, what are you talking about? Everybody loves FDR. He was such a great president.
Mhm.
He did all these things that he did were so great. Well, no, they weren't. No, they weren't. And we're going to talk about some of those not great things tonight. What she's leaving out, supposedly she's half Northern, half Southern. Hard to believe. I say she's all Northern and all something else.
I think at this point, she's about 80% whiskey at this point.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, she says America put Japanese in internment camps. And now you have to see that when you know history, you know how messed up what she said was. And unfortunately, it's going to take a long, long time, if we ever have the time, to take apart statements like that and how those statements are complete and total lies. You see, first of all, FDR was a Democrat, and he's the hero of the Democrats. And he loved socialism. Everybody knows it. Actually loved fascism. And that's what he started implementing in this nation. But Nancy Pelosi, because people didn't realize during World War II, the Germans considered the Japanese Aryans. You know how we're supposed to be, the white supremacists are supposed to thinking that they're Aryans and that they're better than everyone, right? That's the whole world supremacy. But the Germans and the Japanese, I'm not trying to demonize the Japanese. I mean, that was World War II, and they no longer have an army because America said you can't have an army because of what you did. But they were good people. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the generation today. That was yesterday. But she's saying that it was bad. She's not mentioning that the internment camps contained immigrants from Germany who came through Ellis Island who were poor, and Italians. Italians were not considered white in America. At that time, Japanese and Germans were considered white in the whole world. Japanese and Germans were aligned together. Italians were not considered white, and they were lynched in the South and subject to Jim Crow laws, which are laws that segregate the blacks from the whites. If you were Italian, you could not marry a white person. You had to marry a black person or an Italian who was also black. And they were subject to lynching and all that other stuff. And she leaves this part out. Because she knows that the people of America, the generations today, are not being educated on what really happened through history. So when they hear America bad, put Japanese in internment camps, they think to themselves, well, Japanese aren't white. Oh, America did it again. They're racist. They put non-white people in internment camps, when actually Germans and Japanese at the time were both considered Aryans by the guy named H. And also Japanese people didn't consider themselves not white either. They didn't consider themselves people of color either. But the Italians actually were. And here she is, somebody who's half Northern, half Southern Italian, who should know better. But the other thing she doesn't mention, it was her hero. It was the hero of the Democrat Party, not America or a Republican. Some demon Republican did it. It was the Democrat who was the hero and the god of the Democrats who did that. So this man, Tony Bennett, along with the other Europeans and many other countries around the world, got together to defeat a supremacist ideology that was going to take over the world And Germany and Japan were going to rule. See, think these very powerful, very wealthy people marched over the world. This is how you had to do it then. You actually had to send out armies to take down countries. Today, you don't have to do that. There's a famous person whose initials are HK, who said he's an American, and he worked for our government and he's very much admired. He said that to take down a country, you must control the food. So to take down a nation, you must control the food. To take down, to control the people, you have to control the food. To control the nation, you must control the money. So you have to change the money to something that expires, possibly. You know what I mean? A different type of currency that is wiped out. Or if you spend it on the wrong, you are not allowed to spend it on the right. You have to control the money. To take down the world, you have to control the energy. That's interesting. So you've got these two countries in World War II that wanted to rule the whole world by an unelected body of dictators, kind of similar to what we got going now in the European countries, are ruled by a body of unelected dictators. Well, these Germany and Japan were going to rule the whole world and make all the decisions and create a socialistic world, which is what fascism and communism is, because they're both cousins. They're socialists, but they're both cousins to each other. Where one, there is no God. That's communism. One takes over all the farms. The first thing they did in communism was take down all the farms. They took them away from the owners. And if we saw that today, that farms are being closed and farms were being taken, we'd say, first of all, that would be really bad. Second of all, what are the people going to eat? So what they did was they took the farms and they said there will. Remember Bernie Sanders said a while ago, there were too many deodorants. There should be one deodorant, and everyone should decide on. It's not really everyone. What it's going to do, what it's going to look like, how many are going to be produced. So that's the whole idea of communism, is to control the amount of food production of anything. So if you want to eat, you have to line up for it. And there's only so much food because they don't grow enough food for everyone. So there's a shortage of food. And the reason why they do that means only the healthiest people can get there and get to the front of the line. It's also a form of controlling that you have to get there immediately. You have to get there as soon as possible. You have to get there early. You must be like a good soldier. You must be obedient. Just like that email that was leaked, that probably is the email that actually took down a certain person that is a martyr of our time. In it, the person who said, it was a speech to Wall Street that a certain person said, and they admitted in a particular debate, not in this past election, the election before that, we're talking about presidential. One candidate happened to say, "You said this." So we know it's true. It was leaked. We also know it's true because the candidate who said it answered it. And what they said, because we say they because it's up in the air about, we don't want to misgender anybody. What they said was, I look forward to a world without borders, with an uninformed and compliant citizenry. And I have said this since the start of my channel. When I heard her say that, oops, I may have misgendered her. No, as far as I know, she would have been the first woman president. How dangerous this was. That means when we're talking to you about things that people don't know about, people don't know that there's the assumption that Nancy Pelosi made was that people assume that Japanese are white. They're not white. They're not white. People assume that today because they don't know about yesterday. And unfortunately, the entire generation of World War II, and even after that, not only were very old and susceptible to diseases, but somehow, a few years ago, there was something that went around the world that kind of wiped most of them out. So if you want someone out there that's going to correct and say, I lived through this, this is the truth, this isn't somebody lying about history. We don't even have those people anymore. But my family, everybody in my family was old. My mother was old. Everybody was already old when I was born. And all the friends of the family were old. And then I went to church. I would go to church in the mornings. I became friends with elderly people. The only people I've ever known was elderly people. So it's like you hear it from the horse's mouth. You know, and my uncles who were in World War II, I heard it from the horse's mouth. So see how easily someone can lie to you and you believe it. And of course, my God, she's Speaker of the House. She should know what she's saying. She can't be lying. Of course, the other candidates can lie. She'll tell you what other candidates are lying, but she's not lying. I mean, she comes from a part of the country that is doing so well. And we know how well San Francisco is doing. First, it was too expensive to live there. And now it's not a city on a hill. It's a city on a pile of, with needles sticking out of it. So do you see how easy it is that the idea of who is white and who is not white is baloney. It's absolute baloney. And so you had people that went and fought and died in the Civil War and in World War I and World War II. World War II saved the world from a globalist takeover. And most of those people didn't have much melanin in their skins, but they're the most evil people in the world now because they believed the only thing that really can save this world is if we remain separate countries. Not that we're separated or we hate everybody. That's not it at all. It's that sometimes who expected Germany to do this? Who expected the Empire of Japan to do that? Who expected this to happen? Nobody expected that. But you have other countries, the Western countries, who are adhering to freedom, the ideals of freedom, even if they haven't met them yet. This is our Constitution. This is what it says. This is the way we've set up the courts. And if something is wrong, we are free to protest. We must demand justice in our court system because that's in the Constitution. Judges don't make law. They only interpret law. The Supreme Court only interprets the law that is. The people that make law, and we've got a great bunch of them now, that's always had a high, what do you call it, high rating. The Congress makes laws. And of course, then the Senate passes the Senate, and then the president signs it into law. But it only interprets the law that is. Now, if this is the law that is, and we also have a law saying the person, if you are charged with a crime, let's say you're innocent and you're charged with a crime. First of all, we all are supposed to have representation. If you can't afford an attorney, it will be given to you for free. But we have a problem that's happening in our country, is that a group of attorneys, a bar, says that if you represent a certain person, we can disbar you.
Mm-hmm.
It's one person in the whole world. Even people who are not American citizens can be represented for free. A attorney that gets paid very high salaries, that is known as the very, very good attorney, can do it for free. It's called pro bono. Each attorney has to have a certain amount of cases that they do pro bono every year, which means for the good. In other words, it means for free. Anybody in the world can be representative except for one person. And the person is not the guy whose initials are AH either, or any other. And you can see the murderous, monstrous serial killers that we've had, or even people who have, declared war. And then we found out for bogus reasons, they lied about it. They made it up, but they've done it more than once. And they send our young, healthy children, well, it really was men, white men, mostly white men, and African-American men, to die, to be mass slaughtered, except they will never be brought to court, ever. All of them did, except one never started a war. And that's the one that cannot get representation, because if you represent him, you can be disbarred. We have crossed a line in this country that is way too far. What is the evil that is so bad that he did, which Tucker revealed? If you look at even the snippet of that, if you saw it, I will say no more, I will not go into it, you will know that there was something very odd about what was reported that actually happened. So if you say that makes him evil, or if you say that, he's a racist, no, because we can go through our list of presidents and politicians who are actual members of the KKK. And
everyone is related to slave owners, except
everyone is related to slave owners, except for this guy. Yeah. So if you actually, and who did the most for minorities, Black Americans and minorities, was the one that can't get an attorney, who gave more money to schools, Black schools, than any president or anybody in history.
Well, okay. I just want to interject. It's a very sort of Stalinist thing where you don't only punish the dissenter, you punish everyone in their proximity, so no one wants to associate, whether it's be their legal defense, be their friend, be their business associate, whatever. So they have to be completely socially isolated, their own family members even. And so something I don't want people to forget, because it goes into the whole idea of a social credit system. I really think it was really the first shot over the bow as far as a social credit system with the second impeachment. They were considering, they made a serious effort to debank all of the senators who voted against the impeachment. So not only was this man was never tried in a court of law, he was never found guilty, he was never charged. He was never even charged with a crime. But whoever's in charge of the social credit system elected themselves as judge, jury, and executioner to strip not only him but everyone who supported him of the ability just to use a bank. Now there's a certain man who operated an island in the in the Virgin Islands. No one ever debanked him. No one ever debanked any of his clients.
That's right. And who are his clients? And we kind of know.
Yeah.
We kind of know. We all kind of know who they are.
But
they'll never be brought to justice. And it used to be the most heinous crime in the world. That used to be the worst crime, even worse than the R word. Because most people have thought that their ethnicity, or, I mean, we joke about it here, because it's just funny. I mean, about if I say Italians are better than anybody, because this is what my clientele uses to say. But each ethnicities think that way. Your religion, people who believe in the many different religions believe that their religion is the right one. Because their book says they're going to heaven and you're not, because you have to follow this. I mean, everybody thinks that they're better in some way. The Democrats think they're better than the Republicans. The Republicans think they're better than the Democrats. And the great majority they're all friends, and they're going to the same clubs and visiting the same islands. But so let's say the crime of thinking that you're all the people who are like you are better than other people, another group of people, or several groups of people. A lot of people think that way, and they have. It doesn't matter their melanin content or their religion. You'll see it in all different forms. But the worst crime used to be the crime that occurred on that island.
Yes.
And we know pretty much everybody who went to that island. And there's only one person that brought the guy who ran that island to court and said, I saw them doing something. And he used to attend his property until he saw, he used to come to his property, not the island. Until he saw him doing something to somebody underage. And then he went to court and banned him from all his properties. Now, I saw those court documents. They used to be on the web. I saw the PDF files and I read them. They were true. They were real. And then not long ago, was it maybe about a year ago, I did a video where I'm going through the internet and I am trying to find those documents again. And the best I could find was the lawyer for the underage girls. They said, well, the reason why we know it's true, because the lawyer of the underage girl said in a court document that the girls he was representing said that person who can't get the attorney who is being considered the worst person to ever live.
Yeah.
We used to think it was AH. I used to think he was the worst. I would say Stalin too. I'd throw him in the mix there.
I'm sorry. This is an aside, but oh God, I'm sorry. What's his name? Oh jeez. I'm sorry. I just had a brain fart here. Who is the leftist? The transformational grammar? Noam Chomsky. And I saw him years ago, and I saw a clip of him where he said that DT was a more dangerous man than AH. And my immediate thought was, how many trips to that island has this guy taken? That was my.
We know he's been to the island.
Well, yes, but I thought this 4 years ago. 4 years ago, when I heard that clip,
Wasn't he the one? Wasn't it him, or am I mixing him with someone else? But it was a big wig on the Democrat, as far as big liberal guy who's been around forever, an old guy, and who came out and said that DJT is the only one who's never started a war. He's actually the most peaceful president we've ever had. He's never started a war. He's never
which is a statement of fact.
Well, yeah, and I thought it was Noam Chomsky.
Well, not as far as I'm aware, but
if I find it,
Spirit Sama says it was, but yeah,
it was Noam. Yeah, I saw him. I swear to God, it was him saying it in an interview that he came. In fact, you could probably, why don't you Google that right now? But it was in a court document that the girl said that no, DJT is the one who barred the guy who decided to commit suicide. The guy who barred that guy who owned the island. He would, because DJT saw him doing something in public to an underage girl, and he barred him from all his properties. The girls themselves, who, this is a Florida court when he was first charged with underage black trafficking. It was in that. And when the girls brought him to court to get that charge, and they came as witnesses, and there was the attorney representing them, and it was in that document where they state that he barred him from all his properties because of that reason. Because the web, the biggest thing that you can go to on the web that searches for you, said after the 2016 election that we can finagle the results where we can actually change 25 million votes. We can switch 25 million votes. We don't know in what direction. I'm not going to go any further, but let's just say we don't know what direction. So I know things get scrubbed.
Yes.
And I saw it. I saw the court documents. It's a PDF. I read all the court documents. It was on there. And the only thing I could find was what I've just told you, is that it was in the document itself that the attorney wrote up for the girls, the underage girls, stating that this is what DJT did. And this is as much as I could find. And if that even still exists, I don't know. But you can see where if somebody knows about all this bad stuff happening and who's doing what, and he's the only one that's fighting against it and is not associated with a certain group. I'm not talking about the group who in 1939 declared war on the world because they wanted to take it over and run it the way they wanted to. And it wasn't because it was nationalistic. It was because they wanted it to be a worldwide Germany. That people that may want to do that similar thing, but different ways, maybe even better ways, let's say, better, more improved ways that you don't even have to fight a war, but you get the same amount of death. I mean, we're not going to go into all that now in this show, but getting back to FDR, the hero of the left. let's see what we've got here. Well, actually, I'll read about the Great Depression on Saturday night. But the Great Depression is very interesting because we're kind of headed towards it. And what happened was all these farmers went out of business. Everybody lost their farms. And people ended up, when thousands of farms or whatever, hundreds of thousands of farms, however it was in the Great Depression, was a lot less than there are now, go out of business, or the people lose their farms, then what happened in the Great Depression? People starved to death. People starved because they didn't get food. So the Great Depression is an interesting thing as far as FDR goes. FDR, a few very important points on FDR. FDR created a thing called the Brain Trust. And you can find this on the web. You can try Yandex as a search engine. DuckDuckGo. Try other search engines. I've been trying to do all my stuff on different search engines. He created a group called the Brain Trust that he sent over because he was fascinated with fascism. He loved fascism. He was working so well in Italy, he thought. So he sent the Brain Trust over there to learn all about fascism, so he can bring it back here and implement it here. Now, that on Reddit, on Reddit, they were complaining about Marjorie Taylor Greene. But I don't remember the article itself, who put out the article itself, ridiculing Marjorie Taylor Greene because she was demonizing the greatest, most beloved president that we had, calling him a socialist. Well, that's what fascism is. Mm-hmm. Fascism and socialism are cousin to communism. Communism outright takes God away, takes over all the farms. Fascism heavily regulates. Like remember before DGT came into office, 22,000 regulations were put up, which drove businesses out of business because they couldn't comply to it. Yeah. And heavy on the environmental thing. And so business went out of business. And what happened was everything went to China, which is planning 3,500 more coal-fired power plants, is putting one up every 6 days. So what happened, you put the regulations up and then you send everything over to countries that don't have any regulations at all. So that's similar. So basically you're driving people out of work, out of business, money is going out of the country. In fascism, that's what happens. They put up so many regulations, it's impossible. So that means the government will take it over. So essentially you achieve the same result as communism, whereas the communism, it's an outright takeover, which doesn't produce enough. And because you don't produce enough, you only feed the healthiest of people and the most compliant people. Yeah. And you end up killing off all the elderly who have the wisdom of history that we're forgetting. It's so important because you don't know what the lies are. And it's always the wise, go see your grandma, ask your grandparents about that. They lived through it. It used to be people didn't have to go to school to gain wisdom. They went to their elders to get the wisdom. And they would teach to make sure the children knew, the young folk knew what the truth was. But if you don't make enough food, then there's only so much food. And then if you demand that they have
Oh,
to stand,
more importantly, you centralize the sort of reserves of food. You centralize the production of food. You centralize the production of energy.
and you don't make enough of it.
Yeah.
So you basically cull the population by keeping only the strongest and healthiest alive. And you get rid, because disabled people, elderly people, sick people are a drag on society. So you get rid of all of them. And then you keep the healthiest, the youngest, the most compliant. And those are the best, because you can send them off to war, can't you? And you'll have a stronger army, won't you? A way to break an army is if you change the way an army works, you say, well, we don't want the strongest people. We don't people who come in and are fit, make sure that they're fit, and they have one sole mission to protect the country, to go off and fight, to survive, to know how to, everything is about working the equipment. Everything is about that. As far as personal lives go, it's to a minimum, because you have to protect your country, right? So all the energy goes into equipment and being fit and one goal. But if you want to break an army, you make the army's goals other things than actually being fit and fighting a war and having the best equipment. Of course, the MIC is making a lot more equipment now, because it's interesting how if you leave $85 billion worth of equipment by accident that are brand new, and then you leave people, especially your support system, and we know it was a bad thing because people climbed on the aircraft and fell off and died. They wanted to get out of there because the Taliban wasn't a good thing. And then, of course, the women became oppressed, which makes you wonder about an administration that is supposed to care about the women, right? And then they don't care about the women. But you have to think to yourself, okay, so you're putting a terrorist, we know are terrorists, we know what they do to their people, right, in charge. And people actually would rather fall off a plane and die than live under that regime. And then you leave all this brand new equipment. First, if you're going to have to fight a war, you're going to have to buy all new equipment. Second, it's really bad for the environment, having all of this equipment lying around that's either used and blown up or brand new and not used, or that you have to replace all that equipment. Yeah. But also, you're putting the world is in danger of another huge war, because an enemy, somebody who wants to happen to come upon this equipment and then take over another country that's more vulnerable, they can do it. And we, or the administration that left it there, you would think would hold responsibility if that equipment is used to kill other people, especially they decide to take over a country that's vulnerable. Would you think they would be complicit? Wouldn't you think that might be a W crime of some kind? Yeah. What don't you think is what do you think, Rob? Tell me your thoughts on all the babble. I'm a girl and I just babble. I don't know what I'm talking about. Go on.
No. I actually don't know what to believe. What level of design, whether it's purely incompetence or whether it's purely design or something in between. But yeah, in an unstable country, it's very likely that equipment is going to find its way in the hands of a more stable country, perhaps one that begins with the letter C, the beautiful letter C. And not only do they have the equipment, then they can reverse engineer the equipment and
Right, which has happened before under an administration whose letter began with a C, took money from a beautiful nation whose also letter began with a letter C. They took money, and they also gave, the C administration gave military secrets to this wonderful, beautiful nation that also begins with the letter C. We will say no more. So it's wait, we'll go back to FDR. FDR, the evils of FDR. FDR also appointed the first member of the KKK to the Supreme Court. Democrat, yes. And it's interesting because I read, it was PBS. In fact, it was Smithsonian article. Let me see if I still have that article.
Hello?
Okay, here I am. Yeah, I saw I disappeared for a second. Well, it was a Smithsonian article, and I spicked. Oh, here is this it right here? So, okay, Supreme Court Justice was a member of the KKK, and reading this particular article, even after the story came out in 1937, Hugo Black went on to serve as a member of the Supreme Court until the 1970s. I wonder if he voted during that RVW thing. I wonder here. Let's see if I can pull up that article here. So you can to share the screen here.
By a bunch of white men. A bunch of white men decided that.
That's true. There is Hugo Black. There's a drawing of Hugo Black. It's interesting. I tried to pull up not a right wing that you can news organization that you can just demonize. See, it was him, Hugo Lafayette Black, but he was a white guy. He was appointed by FDR to the Supreme Court. So FDR, this is the great FDR, and in it he claims they say that he was a great defender of the civil rights, which is actually baloney. It's the first thing Sosodian says. He was a defender of the civil rights for 3 decades on the Supreme Court, but part of his life sits on the other side of the scales. In fact, it sat during the entire time on the other side of the scales. It wasn't. It's like when LBJ passed civil rights, and then he passed welfare, which destroyed the Black family, because it's only if a woman was single could she get money from her children. If the husband or the father was in the house, she couldn't not get that money. And LBJ said, this is on record, we are going to have those blanks, and use the word, voting for us for the next 200 years. And it came out during a recent release in 2020 or 2019 that he was a member of the KKK at the time. So he did that. Sometimes people do things like that because they want power. It's to get power. And once you get the power by getting the votes, you get the people, and you keep them dependent on you. You get the vote, then you get the power, and then your party gets that power forever, and they become bigger and bigger and bigger. He was a lawyer, politician from Alabama, appointed to the Supreme Court in 1937. Not long after a reporter, this is when reporters actually investigated. He investigated him and found out that he was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Just as Black revealed as a Klansman, let's see, links to the Klan revealed that he joined the organization in September of 23 and resigned almost 2 years. Oh, he resigned 2 years later. Oh, really? Oh, it was just for 2 years. His resignation, scrawled in longhand on a sheet of stationery of the Grand Dragon of the Alabama Klan, was the first move of his campaign for the Democrat nomination in the United States as a senator. So he showed, see, I'm not anymore. It's that way he became, and from that point he became a senator, showing I resigned. Well, apparently lots of people in Alabama.
He joined 2 years before he was running for senator.
Right there, he's going to say senator. Okay, we'll just say now on paper, I'm not a member. Wink, wink. On paper. Black was well. Oh no! What is this here? In September of 1926, while he was still running for Senate, Black was welcomed back into the Klan and given life membership. Wait a minute. What about 2 years? What is this 2 years? It's a life membership. Public and political response to these allegations was overwhelmingly negative. Let's see, it is voted. They wouldn't have done so if they had known back in 25. And the newspapers called him everything from a vulgar dog to a coward. Ooh. This at issue was just the Klan's acknowledged brutality and racism towards Black people. Anti-Catholic! Oh, wait a second. Aren't the Catholics being investigated by a certain administration? It's not just anti-Jewish, anti-Catholic. That's interesting. Like my mother said, there's like a million reasons if you're Italian why the Klan would hate your guts. Springle, that's a great name, won a Pulitzer Prize for uncovering Black's Klan links. The story was complicated by the Supreme Court members' progressive allegiances with FDR and the New Deal. Black himself believed he was being attacked as part of a war on FDR and his policies. Oh, he was being attacked. He felt he was being attacked. And he had anti-partisan FDRs and his policies. They brought up no new facts not having been thoroughly brought out in the campaign in Alabama. Black wrote in a letter to an acquaintance in late 1937, with their practically united press was chiefly against the president. They had no difficulty in making the public believe that they had broken a startling piece of news. At the press conference, though FDR maintained he and the public had not been aware of Black's links to the Klan. Where have we heard stuff like that for? I didn't know he was linked to the Klan. And Black certainly went to some effort to distance himself from the Klan during a radio speech he gave on October 1st. In that speech, he directly talked about Springle's story, saying, I did join the Klan. I later resigned. I never rejoined, though they gave you a lifetime membership. What appeared then, or what appears now on the records of that organization, I do not know. I have never considered, and I do not now consider, the unsolicited card given me shortly after my nomination to the Senate. That unsolicited card was the membership, lifetime membership to the Klan. As a membership of any kind of the Ku Klux Klan, I never used it, and I did not even keep it. Before becoming a senator, I dropped the Klan. I had nothing to do with it since that time. Some historical records indicate that Roosevelt did know about blacks' association with the KKK. Ball writes, but in terms of public record, the matter rested there under Black's death. A week after he retired from the Supreme Court, after 34 years, in the course of that career, he made his mark as a champion of civil rights and liberties, New York Times wrote in his obituary.
It sounds a lot like Robert. It sounds a lot like Robert Byrd, how he's being held.
I know. All of a sudden, he changed. He became a civil rights advocate. That obituary suggested that Springel's interpretation of the evidence he found was incorrect, and that the story had been leaked by the Klan to discredit the liberal Black. It also revealed an interview that Black had given the Times in 1967 with the intent of setting the record straight on the agreement that it wouldn't be published until after his death. In that interview, Black said he joined because he joined. Now make sense of this in your head as you will, that this man is claiming he has Superman-like powers. Black said he joined because he wanted to keep the organization from getting too extreme. So he was going to stop the organization. One man is going to stop this established organization. And Black is not the Grand Imperial Wizard, nor the Grand Exalted Cyclops, as Robert T. Byrd, Democrat senator and leader of the Democratic Party in 1988, who was the Grand Exalted Cyclops and died in 2010, who also used the word white blank, that blank word, the white blank. Oh no, there's such a thing as white blank words, as if that's to admonish him. Oh well, since there are white, as if that's going to make you actually using the word better. That he admitted he used the word, and that there are those people who are, but there's also white ones, which means if Black people are those, what that word actually means to a person who's the Grand Exalted Cyclops of the KKK, what that means, and he's saying that there are white ones that the Klan does not consider white. That means there's groups of people that are white that are on the level that they have placed Black people. So it's not about being Black per se. It's who the Klan considers anybody by that word, which is, you can imagine the definition of what that word actually is. There's white. The KKK believes that unless you are a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, and they can go back in your ancestry, and if you have Catholic in you, Jewish in you, if you are anything but white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, you are not the supreme race. Their version, they feel they're supreme. They feel that they're pure. They feel that they're the pure race. So that means anything but that. Do you see how narrow that is? It's extremely narrow. Anything but that, you put under that name, that word, that blank word that none of us are supposed to say. This is what has been lost to history. It's just anybody white, everybody white is born evil. When the people who created this law, the people in Germany whose leader was A.H., they looked at what the KKK, the Jim Crow laws, the Democrats of the South, the rules that they made up, and how they controlled groups of people. They learned that from them. They learned eugenics from us, too. The abortion clinics came from the KKK to control unwanted populations and to also say about those unwanted populations. You see, after they broke up their families, they just run around and they're not like us. That's the reason why they're just birthing babies. And, that's why we have to keep them in our cities. We have to run those cities that they're in. So we can keep them, we can put them in red line zones. That's what they did. They were in certain zones that they could not live in. They actually created the idea of, Black people being poor, or Black people not wanting to work, or Black people having a lot of babies, or Black people not wanting to get married. They created that idea by destroying the Black family, by the welfare system, not allowing the father in the home, by not just helping them, by not bettering their communities, by making sure their education system was bad, that they would never get ahead, and making them dependent on them by the welfare and by civil rights. They said, we've got them forever. And it began with FDR. Black people were African Americans. Back then, they said Black. They used the word that was the French word for the word Black, is actually what, or the word of color. I'm not going to use the word per se, because the KKK used to hold a rally before the Democrat. The Democrat. What do you call it? I'm very hot here. I'm very tired. The convention. They used to hold a rally, and then they used to march in with all their costumes on. And what they wanted full control. So FDR could have ended the Depression. The Depression went on forever. He could have changed the way Wall Street, everything is regulated. He could have done something. He sat on it. What he did was, because he was infatuated with fascism and wanted to implement it here, he knew he had to do one thing. It was to destroy capitalism. He had to make the American people disillusioned with capitalism. That's why the government could have helped the farms. The government could have made sure the farms didn't go out of business and that people had food. The government could have, we're sending hundreds of billions of dollars over after we left all the $85 billion worth of equipment in Afghanistan. We keep sending this money over, except no money is going to the farms. No money is going to people to help heat their homes. No money is going to help anyone anymore, except if you come here in a different way. Well, they are covered. But as far as people who are born here and live here or immigrated here, they don't get the money. So FDR could have done something, but he intentionally didn't do anything. So he had to break the American people, our will to venture forth, our creativity, to make it on our own, to have less government and more independence and freedom And that's the reason why America has created so much stuff and so many inventions and broken through with so many medical discoveries, is because of that. But what he wanted to do was break the idea of freedom, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. He had to break all those things, the right to free speech, everything. He made us disillusioned with capitalism because he made us suffer for a long time. And I think recently we are feeling that suffering. The past few years, we're feeling it even more. In fact, it was not the last administration, but the administration before that, that we had it too good. It was an illusion. Remember, we were told by the leader then that it was an illusion of the prosperity of America. That wasn't real. That was a fantasy. So FDR broke and then started introducing socialism. He started socialistic programs, everything run by the government. You see, the government will feed you. The government will give you jobs. And the African American who was working very hard and had a 10% illegitimacy rate had the highest above whites and intact families. They were working from dawn to dusk and they were moving up in the world. He had to break them too. And what happened was because they needed work, disgruntledly, they went over to the Democrat Party because it was the FDR who, after a long period of suffering and famine and poverty and suicides and people dying of sickness, unable to get medical care, that people, after a long period of time, after a certain amount of time, people can bounce back. After a long period of time, it's kind of like seasonal affective disorder. That after the long winter and the cold of not getting enough sunlight, people become depressed. And then when spring occurs, when I worked for a florist, this is the time when spring hit. See, the world is still, there's no snow and everything is gray and everything looks dead. Things aren't growing yet. So there's that period of after the winter, then you've got this grayness. The seasonal affective disorder just skyrockets. And that's when a florist will see the highest amount of funerals. We're getting all these orders for funerals. These orders for flowers for funerals is because people are committing suicide. And can you imagine seasonal affective disorder, a long winter where you can't grow anything for years? Was it 20 years? It was a long time. He was in he got his fourth term? And that's when we had unlimited terms. That finally he came in and said, oh, we're going to create jobs. All of a sudden, the government is going to provide you jobs. The government is going to give you food. And then everybody, that's it. You're broken. You go over and then the idea, that's where the idea of the Democrat Party is the party of the poor, is the party to fight for the poor, to help the poor. That's where it came from. The people feel, the Democrat Party, the Republican Party means I've got to work for myself. I've got to pay all these taxes, which are skyrocketing because the government is bloated. And so it's hard to create your own business because the taxes are so high and paying people the taxes you take out of that and so on and so forth is so big now because the government is bloated, because that's when the government started to get bloated, was under FDR. And so if the idea of the Republicans and the small government, well, you're stingy. You want to keep all your money. You don't want to give it to the government. How dare you? Because the government knows what to do with the money. They know whose pockets to line. And they all have great health insurance, and they get paid really well. And then they all have pensions. And then after you retire, you get your pension, and you can go get another government job, and you get full pay, and you can get another pension, and so on. So it's just work for 10 years, and then every 10 years you can get a new job. It gets bloated and bloated and bloated and bloated. And so, oh, you're stingy. See, the Republicans are stingy because they want to keep more of their money. They don't want to give it to the government. You see, and the government obviously is run by Democrats. 95% gives to the Democrat Party, gave to Hillary Clinton. Oh, and the government, that's where the poor people go to get food stamps, to get fuel assistance, to get subsidized to keep you poor, It does keep you in a very, very poor place. And so the idea of Republicans being stingy and wanting to make money and not wanting to pay, they don't like these taxes, as if the idea of the tax is really going to help the poor. Well, why is the government bloated? Then why don't you take that money and put it into schools, put it into better teachers? If the teachers aren't teaching well, then let them go. Hold them to instead, they never can get fired. They get their money for the rest of their lives. They can be a bad teacher, and guess what? If you're a bad teacher, you get money for the rest of your life. You have to change that system so people can get a good education, learn the truth, go to college or go to a trade, get a trade, and be your own business and keep more of your money. But that's where the evil is. So when you see how Marxism started to come in, who Marxist turns out to be, if you read his writings, he uses the blank word. He disparages Native Americans. He was a rabid racist and evolutionist. And Darwin thinks that the people of Africa are not as smart as the other people. And yet Marxism adheres this communism, and all these young people who are all for this Marxism have no idea. Oh, they're anti-racist. No. Do you know the people? And then Castro and Che Guevara, they killed all the homosexuals. They were racist against Black people. All the people in jail in Cuba are Black. They were mass murderers. You were murdered if you were homosexual. They took them all to the seashore, lined them up, and shot them. Marxism is the most racist, and though they talk about class system, it is a class system. It's them and everyone else. They keep you poor, and with this idea of equality. But there is no equity. There is no equality. Not in Marxism, because all these people who they feel are below them are poor and dependent on the government. So that is what FDR instilled, and he began the spiral down with Marxism, which was racist, and the idea of no God, of the atheism of Darwin, who was a racist, who in his writings says that the people of a particular continent, these people who are not white, have a lower IQ. He's the one who put that forward. And this is what they adhere to. And they're telling us, because we have a low melanin content, that we're the ones. But according to the Klan, we're not pure. We're not pure. We are white blanks. We are white N-words. That's who we are. I try never to say the word N. I just say white, those words, that word, the blank word. I didn't even want to go that far. But you see, people are so ignorant. And it was because FDR wanted to pass the New Deal, and the people in the South didn't want to do that. They didn't even want to, the KKK. And so they said, all right, we'll sign it if you make sure that lynching is not outlawed in the South. So lynching continued in the South until 1968, and 1/3 of those lynched were white Republicans because they hated Republicans. And also the New Deal is another racist thing about the New Deal. In fact, I have an article that I was going to read, but I'm not going to read another article. I'm going to tell you. And you can look it up yourself. I'll leave the links. I'm going to, it might take me till tomorrow, but I'll try to put down as many links as possible so you know I'm not bullshitting you. Oops, I used a word. That in the New Deal, FDR made sure, even though he brought the blacks into the Democrat Party, and then LBJ cemented it in with welfare, destroying the black family, cemented it in with welfare. Under the New Deal, this is how the racism, we're also sure that he's a part of the KKK. He was also, there's just no way that he's not a member of the KKK. But he comes, the Roosevelt family we're talking about old money. These people were the richest of the rich, okay? In the New Deal, anyone black, which also includes Italians, I say that because people don't realize it's not just people keep saying Italians are white. It also did not include. It included more than just black people. Included those minorities, or those people who were not pure. That blacks got the lowest of the lowest pay under the New Deal. Whites got more pay under the New Deal, and which did not include Italians and several other ethnic minorities. So that's how not racist and what a hero that FDR was. And Nancy Pelosi dared in that one statement, not only did she not tell you that it was FDR who put people in internment camps. She wouldn't admit it was the hero of the Democrat Party. She only told you Japanese people, because people today are so stupid and so ignorant of history that they think that the Japanese then were not white. See, America put not white people in internment when actually the Japanese were white. And she did not mention the Germans who came here to this country the Germans and the Italians who came to this country trying to earn a better life, who came before World War II, came before Hitler. They had nothing to do with Hitler. And those people suffered of sickness. They didn't get medical care. Everything, all their possessions were taken away from them. They suffered and died in those internment camps. They were better than the camps in Germany, but still, they suffered and died in those camps. And she knows this. And she's leaving out their Democrat hero. She's leaving and she's putting in, saying, oh, because America is racist, they put Japanese people in internment camps. Wait a minute, those Japanese people, according to AH, were Aryans. That is how messed up this is. And that is how messed up Marxism is. And that is messed up how Darwin is. And how both of these ideologies, that's where your communism and fascism and all that stuff is. It's all these evil groups are a part of the same bunch. But there is only one candidate that has never has any ancestry to owning slaves. Only one. So is there anything you want to add, Rob, if you're still here?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, let's stop screen. Okay, go ahead, Rob.
No, I don't really have anything to say. You said it all. You are truly the best idea talker person on YouTube.
I'm the best idea talker person. But it's like the evil, and I'm reading and I'm researching and I'm reading, and there's just so much information. There's just so many articles that I'm pulling from. And it's the truth. And the last time I had a stream last week, there was a lot of stuff here in that chat that just because that particular person was smart, they were actually saying things that were not true, or they were throwing things off. And I'm going, and there was other things that were being said that I've got to correct a lot of these things. I've got to correct. And so I went and I did my research. And it isn't that I didn't know most of this. I actually knew most of this. Oh, Hugo Black. I didn't end on Hugo Black. Let me end on Hugo Black. Oh, the end of that particular article is the kicker here. Let me just
And this is Smithsonian Magazine, which also said that being on time is white supremacy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I picked particularly I picked Smithsonian for a reason. Is because if you are a liberal, you're not going to believe, you're going to say, well, they lean right, or that's white extremist, or something, or right.
Well, that's what I would do during deflating atheism.
That's why. What's that?
During deflating atheism, it's like, well, if I had to provide a source for the historicity of Jesus, I always take it from Bart Ehrman or an atheist or an agnostic. I know that
I'm saying
they're not going to listen to me, if I post it from a Christian source.
So let me, at the end of this article, I say, so you believe what I'm saying, even though we know Smithsonian, the way they lean, and they're not always right, but because they lean left and they want to make FDR look as good as possible, but clearly it even states here that FDR knew. He claimed he didn't, but he did knew. Okay, in that interview, Black said that he wanted to come out after his death. Black said that he joined because he wanted to keep the organization from getting too extreme, and because many other Alabama lawyers belong to it. Oh yeah, I just joined to a brutal, the extremist, the terrorist arm of the Democrat Party that burns homes down of people who they considered not of the pure race and lynches them. I joined because other Alabama lawyers belong to it. He maintained, here's a kicker. This is a kicker right here. Okay, so not only is he saying that he's trying to claim that he left after 2 years. Why you would join an organization, by that point you should know what this organization is about. But he left after 2 years. He's also making excuses for it. First, he himself, he's got a God complex. This is a very narcissistic statement, that he wanted to keep it from getting too extreme. Right? How can you do that? I ask you, liar. And many other, all the other Alabama lawyers belong to it, and there's a certain president whose initials are WJC, who said, well, you got to belong to the KKK to get anywhere in the Democrat Party. Well, here he says something similar. He says, oh, because many other, he could say all of them, but many other Alabama lawyers belong to it. Well, what about the ones that don't? Why don't you ask them why they don't belong to it? Oh, so that's why you joined, because a lot of Alabama lawyers belong to it. Okay, well, then that's a good reason. He maintained that he was against hate and that the Klan he joined was really, in reality, here's the kicker, was really a fraternal organization. So it's like belonging to, fraternity at college.
It's like
that's all it was. It didn't burn anything down and terrorize people at night and hang people and burn them. There's even bodies that they burn them alive after they killed them, or they burn them after they killed them as they're still hanging there. Oh, really? And then you instilled Jim Crow laws, keeping everyone segregated in the South and totally controlled. Yes. Isn't that the kicker? It's a fraternal org. He joined to it because he's a God complex narcissist, because he was going to keep it from being too extreme. And there were many other lawyers that belong to it. Okay, those are extremely good reasons. You're going to be like Jesus Christ, keeping it from being extreme. And because many, not all, say, well, all of them do. So, you had to, you're a lawyer. So, you know what? I would not be a lawyer. But many, what does many even mean? Many there could be like 50,000 lawyers in the state of Alabama. I'm just throwing out a number. And maybe 100 or 50 or 40 or 30 or 20 or 10. And many doesn't designate a majority. It's just many, right? So many lawyers, that's an excellent reason. And come to find out, after his beating the drum and saying that, when I decided to run for senator, I quit that after 2 years. Then you're okay then. There's nothing wrong. Well, it was really a fraternal organization. He maintained that it was really a fraternal organization that hung and lynched that almost 5,000 people that we know of, set them on fire, leave them to hang and rot on the trees, terrorize them at night, where they woke up at night and they pulled the father out of the house, lynched him, burn the house down, burn the farm down, so they were left with destitute. It's just fraternal pranks. What do you say, Rob?
Well, I thought the Shriners don't do that, so.
Yeah. They had sheet drives. There are many people of this fraternal organization that need new sheets. So, and they can't just wear any sheets. They have to wear top quality sheets. So I'm sure they did fund drives for sheets. I mean, can you really? This is the guy. I didn't know that. He knew that. He was talking to these Jim Crow KKK people of the South all the time. They were in the Senate. They were in the Congress. They were a part of the system of the government. He knew who they were. And they were open about it. I mean, it's like in the South, they pretty much knew. If you're a politician, you knew who was the KKK member or not. And come to find out, so was LBJ. So was Well, Jimmy Carter started his campaign in the office of the Georgia KKK. So it's like, here we go. Oh, no, they switched parties. It was a long time ago. These Democrats are different Democrats. Okay, so Jimmy Carter, who's still alive today, who's president, who everybody thinks is a saint because he built houses for the poor. That's all right. He's a saint. Okay, that's KKK. Bird, who has been in there for 50 years, but he changed. Grand Exalted Cyclops. I mean, you couldn't get any more white than this guy. He's like the whitest guy I've ever seen. And he's, oh, no, I didn't just call, black people that word. There are white blank words too, which is your confirmation on Larry, I think it was Larry King. I think it was during the 90s, the confirmation that the KKK considered that you were not just, it was just a very small segment that was the pure race. And they went back in your family history to make sure your race is pure on both sides. Otherwise, you couldn't join. This is a very important point that's completely lost today because, as he said, there are white blank words too, which means all these people down here, but there's a very select few that belong to the pure race. And he died in 2010, and Barack Obama's administration, Obama Biden, put his statue up in the Capitol Rotunda in 2011. And Clinton, Obama, and Biden eulogized him, a member of the KKK, the Grand Exalted Cyclops. And all the riots went on with the pulling down the statues and the burning. Nobody said, why don't we take down? Oh, no, Obama put it up. And he was the first African-American president. Can't take that down. That kind of says, right there, that says who's running the country. That says right there who's running the country. So what are the ills of America? Those are just some of the ills of America. And next week, we're going to get into more ills of America. How about that? But then again, we also talked about the good things that Europeans did by stopping a globalist takeover, where two countries wanted to control the whole world. Powerful, wealthy men were confiscating treasures from unwanted communities, and they were confiscating all their bank accounts, and they were getting wealthier and wealthier by confiscating, and they wanted to spread their ideology, their socialistic ideology, which was communism, fascism, all over the entire world, where every single person in the world is going to be controlled. But they tried to do it by war. But it's still terrorizing and it's still intimidation. But today, you don't really need to do it by war. You just need to make everybody really, really poor and take everything away. Food, money, and energy. You see? That's all you have to do. You don't have to fight a war. And, in the morning, you just throw the kerosene, turn everything to the carbon that you turn into the soil, which we know is a nutrient. You know how they're moving away from carbon to something else that actually, when it hits the air, disappears? Did you know that? The thing that they're moving towards is that when it hits the air, it gets oxygenated, it disappears. You can't drill in the oceans because that breaks it open, and the methane that's stored under the ocean floor, which plants, that's what made the methane is plants. It's just plants when they decay. Did you know that there are more underwater volcanoes and earthquakes than we even know about it? Hello there, Amy. How are you? Did you know that? Did you know that there's, as of maybe 10 years ago, about the time that statue went up, which isn't that long ago, that the KKK was running. Okay. So there was about 2 million that we knew of, and we only know it's theirs when pumice rises to, if planes fly overhead and you see this pumice. Well, there's earthquakes under the water too. So every time a volcano or an earthquake, these breaks in the ocean floor, methane releases all the time. In fact, more than the rigs that we have, that they say, oh, they're drilling the rigs and it's letting go. What the fuck are you talking about? The thing goes down. There's really, the way it's designed, there's really no gas escape because it's designed to, unless it's broken, unless some kind of a leak happens, it's designed to suck up what's coming out from the earth, so there is no methane escape. But even if there was, it makes no flipping difference. It hits the air, it turns to water and carbon. It completely dissipates when it hits the air. That's why compost piles create methane. But because the microbes disappear, when the air hits it, it disappears, completely disappears. That's what happens with, which you're not told about. So it's this is how they're taking over the world, and it's not by truth. It's not to better the world. It's not supposed to better people. It's not supposed to better even the plants or the environment. It's not for the better. It's about lies to create a world in their design. And it's all of us. I say, if it's your king and you want that king and you don't care what he does, well, that's your business. But it's the whole world. It's the entire world. It's all of us. If you want to die under that regime, you've chosen it because you like the regalia and you like the pageantry and pomp, that's fine. That's what you want. Everybody who doesn't want it, move out, go to these countries who are not under a worldwide government. That's why we need free, independent nations, so people can escape to somewhere that is free. That is the sin of a worldwide government. There's no place to run to. There's no amnesty. There's no place to run to. So anyway, on that happy note, do you have anything left to say after I have said it all? Because I know all. Go ahead, Rob, who knows so much less than I do. Go ahead. Speak your piece.
I just want to say I appreciate how Black Samurai and Spirit Sama and how aesthetic their little thumbnails are. I appreciate the aesthetic thumbnails. I like the purple and the green. And I want to tell Black Samurai that 4 years ago, before Felina was mentally broken by the current administration, it wasn't ASMR channel. It was effectively an ASMR channel, but she got mentally broken by the Biden regime.
Oh, you mean my original channel, the Diamond Realm? Diamond Realm was very relaxing. Yes. And until I was broken by what happened. That's right. It's like, hey, it's about, that channel was about connecting with God, achieving inner peace. To actually becoming, so we can become fully realized, all our gifts, everything that we are. And now we're struggling. We're at the bottom of the ocean with cement shoes, and we're struggling to get to the surface. That's where we are now. It's like, oh my God, it's what a change. What a change. So let's see, Spirit Sama is going, oh, it's true. Just have an overwatched character. Let's see. Felina knows more about everything than I know about my best subject, poker. That's so funny. Let's see. I just want to look at I want to look at anything.
Oh, and your Southern lawyer accent is very popular. You need to do that some more.
I need to do that again. He has some personal grudge against somehow he's never met. My Democrat father still believes that DJT created some hotel in Russia.
Yeah, he was trying to build a hotel in Russia, and then they created a big kerfluffle. And I think he
didn't do it. He did because he builds hotels all over the world. It has nothing to do with being friends with any particular leader. It's just he was a businessman. His business was building hotels. That's it. Sometimes there's no more than something simple. I went to left-wing sources that debunked it, and my father argued me down that DJT actually did. Like, huh? I know it's like it's the cognitive dissonance. They can't believe it. It just can't be. It can only be what you're told. And that's what I find with Democrat relatives and friends. They absolutely can't think outside of the box. They can't say, like, we go to left-wing sources. We listen to what they're saying. We research what the truth is, because I'm always in a position of saying, what if this person is wrong? Even if I like their reporting or I like what the politician is saying, I always want to say, because I don't want to believe something that isn't true. Because I'm always on the look, because I know the Democrats lie so. The lying goes on, and the rhinos lie so much that you must search out the truth. And so you get into a place where I'm not going to believe it until I make sure that it is true, because I don't want to look like the fool. The Democrats are all on the right. They all believe these lies, and they're not concerned about looking like a fool, and you can present them the truth. Some of them do listen. Sometimes you do see a switch, but some of them absolutely do not and cannot believe. They can't break out of it. And that's from the most intelligent people I know. We're not talking about people of lower intelligence. We're bringing people who are very, very intelligent, cannot break out of it. Mm-hmm. So Black Samurai, she's still like our personal AMS. I'm still like AMSR. I don't know when I'm getting upset like this. Oh my goodness. Yes, I could listen to her all day. That's so sweet. Spirit Psalm has told me that before. That is so sweet of you. Hopefully I'll be able, after this show, I'll be able to. It's just truth. I'm just talking about saving the earth and humanity and everything that's good and just and right. You know, I just want to save. I want to do my part, a small part, if I was allowed to be heard. But that's not the people listening's fault. That's other people. It's other higher ups. To really make a better world for everyone. I mean, just a better world. Each individual person having the best life that they can, and to be fully realized on their God-given gifts, and that they are more than just a human being whose rights are given to them by some higher power, some dictator, some wealthy, powerful person. Their rights are inerrant. They're given to them by God and can never be taken away. They must make sure that we believe that we don't have a soul and we have no worth, that they are better. There are two classes. They're better than we are. They can fly on their jets. They can have their gold plates. They can have all the gold and jewels and Caribbean destinations. They can do whatever they want. And we have to grovel in the dirt and die. And they want to go back to the serfdom era when people were so poor and dying of the plague. And then the wealthy people are dancing, and the food and the elaborate dress and the crowns and the jewels. That's what they want to go back to. We can do whatever we want, and you know your place. You're below us. They want that back.
And it's so naked at this point that, you know, when they're flying in their private jets to go to Switzerland, and people are being locked into 15-minute cities. Now there's a gaslighting that's going on. Oh, 15-minute cities are a conspiracy theory.
Oh, I know. I looked at it. You Google it. Go over there, research it, and you'll see on any search engine, oh, QAnon this and QAnon is saying, oh, this is a good thing. This every single thing that came up. And you have to be very careful. I've got a bunch of tabs up on talking about exactly what those things are like. They're getting us used to be. And if you go, there's a city and there's different areas in the city. If you go past a certain area, you get so many times you get fined $100. So if you go past 10 times, that's $1,000. And they know that
there are videos. There are videos you can watch. They tell you it's a conspiracy theory, but you could see videos with your own eyes of people getting stopped at checkpoints.
And they're normal, regular people. I mean, they're regular, common sense, down to earth people, intelligent. You can tell they're intelligent people, and they're very they tell you what's going on. And they're not crazy conspiracy anything. You can tell by the demeanor of these people, listening to them and looking at them, that they're not conspiracy theorists. The fact that this started in England, I think, is very interesting. But it's going all over the world. There's proposals in cities all over the world. Like I said, it's almost like, unless Jesus comes back, I have no idea, but that's why the prayer shows that I was trying to put up, and the prayers, and the deep prayer, which is the mystical communion, is to be connected to God. More of us do that. The more of us basically embody God on earth, having God around us and with us, and then when people move around us and talk to us and even get near our presence, if we are communing with God, and we've allowed God to humble, our being, and where God can enter us completely, people feel that. When people say, oh, that there are people throughout history that are people who have been closer to God, or people that we call saints, that they say when people enter their presence, they feel there's something different. What is it? How do they attain it? And this is how they do it. It's something that anybody can do. And more of us need to do it because it affects other people. They can feel it. And we get stronger by being this close to God, by holding God within us, inviting him in, and let me do your will. Just act through me. Let whatever it is, your will be done. It's people are affected by that when they get close to someone who is practicing the presence of God. Everything is attaining God. Everything is doing God's will. And you feel the love of God constantly. And you feel it for your neighbor constantly. It's the antithesis of supremacy and racism. You constantly are feeling this love, and it makes you happy, and it gives you new life, and it makes you relaxed, and it kicks your immune system into gear, which I think they're against that too.
Yeah, exactly.
And you mean by relaxing, and that kicks that all going. And so whatever happens, you're affected little by it, but you affect people around you greatly. And of course, you're kind to them, you're generous to them. Even if you don't have something to give, you are generous of spirit, your advice, your counsel, your smile, just being radiant with love and joy. Because you're smiling because you don't even realize that you're smiling, because it's just you're smiling from the inside, because you're feeling God constantly, and they're feeling it. They're being affected by it, by what you're doing, your demeanor, and the fact that they can feel the presence of God is there. It's around. Anybody who will invite God in, God will come in. And that's why these what I tried to do, which was getting a lot of negativity, which I don't want to go into it, then I stopped it on this channel. But it's so important what I was doing. And the rosary helps you, because it does something, like I said, it makes one part of your mind is saying the prayer. And the prayer is like a song in the background, but you're repeating scripture. That's what the prayer is. One part of you is meditating on the mysteries of the life of Christ, the mysteries of the entire experience of Christ on earth and in heaven. That's what you're meditating. You're meditating on that. You're saying the scriptures, and they repeat like a song. You're meditating on Christ's life, and then you're also praying for your intention, like what you want to happen in your life, in the world, to those you love, your family, all that. There's that intention that you hold in the center, and your brain all these things are going on at the same time. So what happens is it's not discordant, and it's not chaos. It actually helps you center and focus more, and have a better linear thinking, but also your brain is active that it even helps you think. It helps mental clarity as well, which also causes calm and peace and focus and direction. But it also creates the environment to help you contemplate, for mystical contemplation, where it's divine communion with God. I found when I did the rosary, for many years. I belonged to the Blue Army, which is dedicated to Our Lady of Fatima. And I led the rosary many, many, many times, during the rosary group and in front of the church. I've done it many times, and I realized that this is the perfect vehicle for contemplation, to attain communion with God. I could understand by embodying it, and also the way you speak it when you enunciate it. Sometimes people enunciate it, I hear it, and they're just saying words, and it's like there's more to this. You need to say this differently. You need to speak this from your soul, not just your heart, but your soul, the heart of your soul. You need to speak it as if God were speaking it. God is within you, and you're communing with God, and God is speaking these words. And so there's an emotion to it. There is there's feeling. And so when your words help other people experience what you're saying, so it's livable. It's like what I said in the beginning about Tony Bennett and the way singers used to sing. they didn't have, it wasn't video, they had radio. There was no TV yet, it was just radio. So when the singer sang, they sang in a beautiful voice. It was moving. You've got the orchestra, you could say it's like the rosary, there's the music in the background, and then there's the repeating of the scripture, which is the voice of the singing, and in the center is the feeling, is actually singing it in a way that you're reaching out right into the person so they can feel and they are moved by that song. That's kind of like the rosary in a way, that really is. So that's see the importance. See one thing connects. I just connected the end to the beginning. I just connected the whole thing.
Beautiful.
Even though we went all around the world, we went back in history, we talked about what's going on today, and then connected the end, beginning to the end. And the beginning was beauty. I mean, Tony Bennett, the voice, the way singers used to sing, it was beautiful. It was moving. It touched us. It what do you call it? It made our life more. It added to our life. It made us better people, because what they were singing about, saying, that's the world I want. That's the kind of love I want. We weren't wealthy, but listening to it made us feel wealthy. And so in the end, you have the rosary, which is like that song, and you're speaking the scriptures, which is the life of God, and the life of God and God in heaven. And then your intention, which is, Lord, come into me. Unite. I'm calling you in to unite yourself to what the issue that's going on that I need you to fix. So you're calling God into you. And when you say the rosary correctly, it should go like that song into those around you. You don't say, you're just saying it without feeling, or just saying, I've got to get through it. It's, got to say 10 of these, blah, blah. And then people drop out the scripture altogether. They say the prayer, which comes from the scriptures, but they don't say the scripture, the verse before each one. They announce it, because people are like, they're tired. They just won't want to do it. And they're doing it because people want to pray and they're worried about things. So it becomes tedious and becomes about worry. And it doesn't become about the beauty and the experience and living God, feeling God. What he suffered, what he was born into, his life, what he suffered, his glorious resurrection. There's so much more, and the experience of being one with God. There's so much more to this, that I listened to these people, and when I heard it for the first time, people saying it, I go, no, there's a different way to say this. There's a different way to do the rosary. You must reach into, do it in a way that people can feel it in their souls. If they feel it in their souls, they can feel God in their souls. And from then, we become better. And if we're better, everything around us becomes better. It lifts everything up. And the people around us are lifted up, and the world is lifted up. That's why what I was trying to do was so important. And it's the only way in my poverty, and I have no power and no money like these other elites do, but this is the only way I can think of that can really change things. So I'm hoping to start that up again. It will be on the other channel, the Sparkling Seventh Speaks. And I also am going to have my brother-in-law, who's the Brahmin, the Hindu Brahmin, on. And we're going to talk about Hinduism and all the different teachings and the culture of India, all sorts of things. We're going to go in, even cooking. He's a great cook. Really great cook. He can cook anything from Indian food to whatever he does is good. So I'm going to try to have him on as well. So we're trying to make that channel a little bit better, but please do sign up for that channel and really let's get to the praying, because, or this meditation, communion, praying. People have this idea, oh dear Lord, oh dear Lord, oh dear Lord, oh, please help me, please. You know, that's not really, that's like, you know, praying, communing with God, you know, speaking directly to him because he's in you, he's around you. He's there. You're bringing heaven to earth. Do in on earth as it is in heaven. That's it. Heaven is at hand right now. So Spirit Sama, I agree. Let's see. Let's read a little bit. Some things have come in. Like I said earlier, they tell us that the videos with people counting things when they weren't supposed to be in the room don't exist. I don't even bother, Amy said, I don't even bother bringing up political names. A wall goes up, keeps discussion from occurring. Policy is different, but progressives are now being brainwashed to stop that too. Spirit Sama, I agree, Amy. The only reason I mentioned DJT is to my father because he was trying to get him to understand with an example. The other night, I listened to Felina's rosary videos, and it definitely helped me calm down, along with focusing on God. Definitely needed that, lady. Oh, well, thank you so much. I'm so happy. If I can touch one person, even if it helps one person, it will be all the videos, whatever. Time won't be time. I say the time, there is no time. It will be worth it. It will be all the good. Amy, of course, my fear is he won't win, but also scared he does. Attacks, lies, and division will be overwhelming. Will certainly be set up to look like the worst humans possible. Well, you can't. Who else? There is nobody else.
Well, what I see, I can't say that there won't be chaos, but I mean, even just looking around on YouTube, I will say that the people who believe the agenda, and I'm not going to call it Democrat, it's just, you know, globalist, uniparty, neoliberal agenda, whatever you want to call it. They've lost so much of their coalition in the past 2 or 3 years. I mean, there's so little public support for it at this time that if they're going to succeed, it's going to be through jackboot authoritarianism, not with the sanction of the public.
No, they've destroyed the Constitution is destroyed. The justice system is destroyed. There's not there. You know, there's no longer a judge can interpret law as it is written.
Yes,
is simply as the Democrats wanted with the Supreme Court. They wanted to legislate from the bench. Amy, yes, if you go to my channel, you on the homepage, if you just go down a few lines, it'll show you 2 channels. And one is the Sparkling Seven Speaks. The other one is the Diamond Realm. The Sparkling Seven Speaks is the one that's going to have the rosaries and the videos about divine communion that I was teaching about. I was working on the book, The Practice of the Presence of God. From there, I'm going to go to the Cloud of Unknowing. And then I will go into other mystics, of other writings from other mystics. So that series will continue because there's so much to learn. It's just really, the more you, even if you don't get it once and you kind of hear it again from this mystic or a different person, sometimes you will get it. You know, if it's hard to get in the beginning, or sometimes another mystic can put it differently. You know, just like, oh, I heard this. They, I think, said the same thing to me, but I understand the way you're saying it, though I know you're teaching me the same thing. You know what I mean? So just go to the channel and click on that. It's got, one has, Diamond Realm has a picture of me. Sparkling Seven Speaks looks like a a profile, a gold profile of either Cleopatra or Nefertari, not Nefertiti, but it's actually Nefertiti. No, Nefertari. It's actually Nefertari. But some people think that it's Cleopatra. But anyway, that's the one. That's the Sparkling Seven Speaks. That's the channel that's going to have all the rosaries, and then all the discussion on scriptures too, and finding God also in other faiths, teaching about other faiths too. Nothing that would contradict with your own, but you know what I mean? The good things, the kind of, sometimes there are things, spiritual things that do coincide in different religions. But anyway, we could also talk about paganism. So I was thinking about the Phoenicians and what the Phoenicians did in their day in honor of their god Inanna, which we notice that a lot of pagans today are saying, we want to honor all these goddesses and gods that are left out, but they don't really know what the way to honor that particular goddess was actually not good. Oh, well, at least in this particular case, it definitely was not good. But people don't realize that, and then they adopt these different gods, and they don't really know what the practices and rituals around this was. And it's nothing hidden. I mean, it's nothing like she's just making this up. This is absolutely, because I study them all. So I'm not studying it from this evangelist Christian is telling me this is what it was, and he's writing this is why it's, I'm going right to the source, so to speak, right to the source when I'm finding these things out. So it's not through a bias. But anyway, it says, glad to hear that deflating atheism. She's saying to you, Amy is saying to you.
I think that was in response to my they've lost their coalition. A lot of their coalition, at least.
Oh yeah, well that is good. So God bless. And did you want to have any last words here?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, everyone, for showing up. God bless you. A lot was covered tonight, and a lot.
We talked about how the Democrats are bad, and then you talked about how the Democrats are bad, and then you talked about Tony Bennett some more, and then you talked about how the Democrats are bad.
And the rhinos
covered a lot of ground.
But also those ideologies in those different countries, in World War II and stuff like that. Also not just the Democrats, it's just different things.
How much
people are these ideologies or these different political ideologies that they associate with the wrong person. You know what I mean? That's it.
Oh, by the way, I found out something kind of amusing. Remember, I told you there was a country singer who said every scar the country has was inflicted through Democrats. I have to look up his name.
Oh yeah, find that out. Okay, I'll be sure to watch again from the beginning. Yeah, there was a lot here. Absolutely, you all make me so happy. I learn something each time. Thank you, Black Samurai. God bless you.
You need to get on the stream again.
I know. I love to have Black Samurai on, and it's like that he might not be able to. He said he was unsure because all the stuff that I'm talking about, that doesn't make any difference. Like opinions. What do you think about this? What's going on in your life? What do you see? I mean, kind of like your personal experience. Personal experience there's facts of history is important. Personal experience is what helps relate to the facts of history to other people. It's like, this is my personal experience. And when you tell people this is what I experienced, they'll say, okay, so that is true. So that is why you believe what you believe. I mean, personal experience is the most important linking factor that teaches the world, not just facts. that's how we connect out and help people learn what the truth is and change the world for the better. Just help people, because we need more help now than ever.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I don't want to go into it. I've made Felina my therapist via email. I'm grateful. Oh, God bless you. Anytime. I have some wisdom. I do know some things in those respects, and God, I'm grateful that that you find me enjoyable and therapeutic and enlightening. Thank you. God bless you. Oh, thank you so much. Love back to you, Black Samurai. Okay. Love all of you. Thank you for joining in. And if you have to rewatch this in segments, then do. But it does all connect together in the end, doesn't it, Rob?
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay. God bless you and good night. Oh, and see you tomorrow. Okay.
Have a good night. God bless everyone.
Okay. Oh yeah, tomorrow night is going to be about the earth, the history of the earth, and what is good and what is bad, and what people are saying about what's good and what's bad. But anyway, it's going to be interesting, okay? So hopefully I'll be able to get a lot of good facts out on that too. And then Sunday night, I forget what Sunday. So it's a scriptural teaching of some kind. I forget. Is it Mark? Is it John? Or is it I, John? At this point, I worked very hard all day outside and inside. For the past few days, I'm just working really hard. That's where my asthma is coming from. So I'm actually pretty darn tired. Bye-bye, Amy. Bye-bye, Sarah Spirit Sama. Goodbye, Black Samurai. God bless all of you. Okay? All right, now I'm going to hit the end broadcast, and thank you so much for joining us, Deflating Museum, with your wisdom. Okay?
Thank you so much.